That was a systematic breakdown by Carlos Prates. And it was also by far the best Carlos has looked in his career. He just beat the absolute brakes off of Jack Della Maddalena. He made JDM look like an amateur. He made Jack look like an absolute scrub. And a dude who looked like he was never a former champion. And obviously, JDM is not a scrub. He is a very high-level fighter. He is a former champion. It's just the level that Carlos Prates is at as a fighter. That was a complete shutdown, lockdown type of performance by Prates where he literally just straight up beat the dog shit out of JDM, dude. That was a masterful performance. So, I mean, we knew that this was going to be violence, right? I was saying, listen, man, this is a BMF style of fight. It's going to be a certified banger, and that it was. But it was way more one-sided than what I thought it was going to be. Now, I did pick Carlos Prates to win this fight by third round KO. And, hey, man, what round did Carlos Prates KO him? And it was round 3, dog. We nailed the main event prediction. Although I did think JDM would have more success than he ultimately did. This was an unbelievable performance by Carlos Prates. So we're going to talk about it. I'm going to react to the entire card. We're going to talk about every single fight that went down for UFC Fight Night Perth because kind of a slow, weird start to the card, right? Obviously over here in the States, had to get up real early for this one, man, but I kind of liked it. Having some coffee, some breakfast, watching the fights, I really enjoyed it, man. And prelims, little weird. We'll criticize and break down some of the fights that we saw there, some weirdness going on. But overall, I mean, the main card, really, really entertaining. We had some great fights, some great back and forth, some slop blubbery fest that we'll discuss as well. But I mainly want to talk about the main event between Jack Della and Carlos Prates because this was, Carlos Prates beat the shit out of him. Like JDM literally had no answers for Carlos whatsoever. And a couple of things that we talked about coming into this fight was JDM is the better straight up boxer compared to Carlos. But all Carlos has to do is just don't box with Jack. Don't box with him. Attack his legs, beat up the calf, hinder the movement to where he did a number on the lead leg of JDM. And I was warning people, man, people were like, well, if JDM goes southpaw, he has this advantage and that advantage. Don't go southpaw against Carlos. He will shred that calf, man. And if you're getting calf kicked and obliterated, getting your lead leg destroyed by Islam Makhachev, and Islam's just tagging and moving before he would get the takedowns. He was just touching that calf of JDM, giving him some issues. If he's doing that, it's going to happen when Carlos Prates starts to do it. A very, very high-level striker, a Muay Thai style of striker with a very extensive striking background. I knew this was going to be a nightmare in terms of the kicking range for JDM, man. He had to get to the inside, had to get to the boxing range, throwing combinations, and he was just never able to get started. And one of the things that Carlos did a great job of in this fight was a ton of lateral movement. Feels like more lateral movement than we normally see from him, right? We see that herky-jerky style, the hands are low, moving forward, moving back, very linear, to where in this fight, he was just circling around the octagon, right? Ian Gary-like footwork. Took some notes, I guess, from Ian Gary. A lot more lateral movement. Was not a sitting target for JDM to be able to walk him down and get to the boxing. Destroyed the lead leg. Took JDM's base out from underneath him. JDM, I thought, was going to get leg kick TKO'd. Right? And I guess if you're a JDM fan, the good, news, I guess, if you want to, look at it in a positive light, is at least he didn't get put out bad by Carlos. Because everyone that gets KO'd by Carlos, they get, put out really bad. And, JDM just, dude, I literally am almost like kind of speechless in a way because JDM is a really, really good fighter. And I know people, they love to play the game of, JDM was never that good. Carlos Prates is just that good, dog. And how good is Ian Gary, by the way? The only two dudes in this weight class that can straight up go toe-to-toe on the feet with Carlos is Ian Gary and Michael Venom Page. That's it. This dude is, I've been saying he is the Alex Pineda of the welterweight division. You cannot get hit clean by him. And it was a masterful game plan. Just don't box with JDM. Kicks from range, knees to the body, punish the midsection, bring the knees upstairs because JDM has that high guard. He likes to dip his levels to try to throw the jab, get to his boxing. And every single time he started to get close to Carlos, Carlos made him pay with something, whether it was a calf kick, a knee, a left hand, a jab. And what I love about Carlos, man, this dude is one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. And I picked him in every fight. And the only time he lost was to Ian Gary, man. This dude he's got that X factor. He has the it factor. He's got that tall, slender man, slim reaper kind of build to where he's just whippy and torquey into these shots, right? Where JDM's got the thudding punches where it looks muscled and yeah, the technique is good, but Carlos is just so relaxed and loosey-goosey and messing around in the antics, rolling the hands, little Nate Diaz action, walking away, right? Pulling out some of the Nate Diaz stuff. And I like it, man. I like it because it pulled JDM into range, and then boom, Prates was able to tag him. And this was a great performance by Prates, man. And I know it says JDM landed 53 total strikes. I'm not quite sure what he landed. I mean, I know earlier on, he was able to land an uppercut, which I thought, oh, maybe he could throw in combinations, get back to the uppercut. But really, the only way JDM was going to have a chance to win this fight is if he could get Carlos's back along the octagon side to where he could open up with the boxing combos. That was JDM's path to victory. And I was saying, people were telling me I was dumb and crazy. JDM needed to grapple in this fight. And to be fair, he did have a little bit of success, which we'll talk about that in a minute moving forward for Prates now that maybe he gets the next title shot. We'll talk about that in a second. But JDM needed to grapple early in this fight, man. And I know it's easier said than done getting a hold of Carlos, but if you're just going to go in there and have a straight kickboxing fight with Carlos and you're not fast and, people are like, well, Jack will just do what Gary does because Jack's a better boxer. And maybe technically speaking, JDM on paper is a better boxer than Gary, but Ian Gary not only is a very high-level fighter, his footwork and speed and overall striking is incredible, man. And that performance that he put on against Prates was great. And the fact that people thought, well, Ian Gary did that, so watch what Jack's going to do is crazy. Because JDM is not a fast fighter. Ian Gary runs a 4.240 while JDM runs a 5.0, if we're comparing speed. That was a masterclass by Prates, man. He beat the brakes off of Jack. I don't care what these striking totals say, if these are even accurate, because we know how the UFC's website is. I know JDM landed some shots. He was able to get the back of Prates at one point, was able to take him down at the end of a round and, secure him on the deck. But, Prates' fundamentals in terms of the takedown defense, he defends the single well, struggles a little bit with the double leg. But when he is able to defend and, work with technique in terms of his get-up game, Prates knows what he's doing, man. Like, people talk about this guy like he's got no ground game. He has a ground game. He absolutely does. So now is his takedown defense great? No, it's not. But in this fight, JDM, people are acting like JDM's some bad grappler. He's not a bad grappler. We've seen him rock dudes before, be able to submit him and get him out of there. And I know that he's more of a striker and his bread and butter is not grappling, but going in there and trying to have a back and forth striking battle with Carlos, you're just asking for problems. Carlos hits harder. He's faster. And what this came down to for me, why I thought that he would ultimately KO Jack, just a way deeper tool bag. Knees, elbows, solid hands as well. Carlos Prates might not be the better technical boxer than JDM overall in terms of the combos and stuff, but man, his jab is good. His hands are low, so they're coming up and you don't really see him, coming from odd angles, wrapping the left hand around the guard, throwing it down the pipe, and those knees were beautiful. Knowing that JDM was going to try to dip his levels, even kind of to discourage him from shooting some of those takedowns. It was just a great systematic breakdown by Carlos Prates, and he literally beat the shit out of JDM, man. Like, this was a shutout from Carlos Prates. And I know Jack had a couple moments early, but Carlos is one of those guys to where when I saw him having a ton of success in the first round, I'm like, this is over for JDM. Because typically from Carlos, we have seen him get guys out of there early and start fast and in a lot of his fights. But really the first round is where Prates kind of moves forward, doesn't really do a whole lot unless he finds the knockout. He's very, very kind of reserved where he's downloading the data, building his reads, drawing out reactions, throwing a lot of feints, which he did in this fight. And then once he gets into round two, this dude just opens up and starts to really put it on you. And that's exactly what we saw in this fight. And for him to be so active in the first round, I was like, this is a bad sign for JDM. Now, again, Prates, he gets the marketing game, man. Getting in JDM's face at the weigh-ins, doing it right before the fight started when they get in there as the introductions are about to start. Carlos, I think, got a little bit in the head of JDM. Not too much, but a little bit. And Carlos was letting him know, hey, man, the nightmare is here. And Prates is legit, man. He's as legit as it gets. He's one of the best strikers in the UFC. I've been saying it for a while now, and he's got the X factor. He's got the power. He's got dynamite in his hands. He throws heat-seeking missiles, and he was very patient with his shot selection because early in the fight when he stung JDM, I think it was with a knee, buzzed him, and then he started to really open up and unload. I'm like, oh man, don't empty the tank now. We got 20 some other minutes to work with here. But he patiently picked his shots, was able to walk down JDM later in the fight, and the lateral movement was a big reason as to why Prates was able to systematically pick JDM apart, was walking him into shots, was sticking and moving, and obviously, a 5-inch reach advantage coming into this fight, can play the long game, can batter you in close. Carlos is one of those rare fighters in the UFC right now that can batter you at every single range, at distance, in the phone booth, at boxing range, in the clinch, every single area, any zone on the feet, whether it's close, mid-range, long range, he can punish you with the striking, and that's what we saw in this fight. But now people love to play the game of, oh, well, JDM just was never that good. Dude, Carlos Prates is just that good. He's just that good. He is the best overall striker in the welterweight division, in my opinion. I mean, I know we have Ian Gary, and technically Gary beat him, but Ian Gary was doing a great job mixing in the takedowns, which I mentioned in my breakdown coming into the fight was Gary was doing a great job disrupting the timing and the momentum of Carlos. And in this fight, it was one of those things where Carlos just kind of let JDM come to him because JDM is the one that has to close the gap because of the reach. And Prates was just walking him into traps all night long, man. This was a great performance by Carlos. And, you know, what's next for both guys with JDM? I mean, they're probably going to give him a guy that's, you know, middle of the rankings because JDM's still really good. And I still think he beats a lot of the guys in the rankings. You know, obviously we saw some issues, you know, obviously, I mean, Islam, you know, elite level grappler. So not a problem there. Now you're facing an elite level striker. So it's not like he's losing to bad fighters. I mean, he's losing to incredible fighters. You know, so people are going to just now probably diss on JDM for losing this fight, man. This isn't a horrible loss. I mean, it is kind of horrible that he got absolutely dominated and just got completely just wrecked, man. Just completely wrecked. So it's kind of hard to see in a way because I like JDM, but I knew that this was a possibility, man. And anyone that has watched Carlos Prates, you know how dangerous this guy is. And you know that JDM, while he's got some good boxing, he doesn't have a ton of thunder in his hands. And you kind of have to have thunder, and you got to have a well-rounded game, especially a solid enough ground game like Ian Gary does, like someone like Islam Makhachev, obviously an elite-level ground game, to really put Carlos in any trouble. And it was worrying me a little bit when Prates was dropping his hands and kind of, you know, floating around out there to where JDM was starting to back him up along the fence because that's where if JDM could extend a combination, you can get to Prates. But Prates is a problem on the feet, man, for literally everybody. For literally everybody. The calf kicks have essentially no telegraph, butchered the lead leg of JDM, took away the southpaw option. So then he has to go orthodox. Then those knees to the body are available. Now the left hand is coming straight down the pipe because you have an open stance battle. The knees to the head, I mean, the elbows. This was just an assault from Carlos Prates in terms of the overall striking skill set, and it was beautiful to watch. Beautiful to watch. MMA striking at its highest level. JDM's a really good boxer, man. People are out here acting like JDM isn't good now. It's just crazy. And then people are out here criticizing, too, that Prates, his takedown defense. And I just think that Prates, to a degree, obviously he does struggle with the takedown defense. We've seen that. I just don't think he had any respect for Jack's ground game whatsoever. Even if Jack did take him down, Carlos, I think, knew that, I'm just going to get back up. He's not that dangerous on the ground, which, again, a little bit risky because you never know, and JDM was able to quickly get to the back, got overly aggressive. But I said this about the Islam fight, right? We saw the body language from JDM. We saw it again in this fight. When the fight starts to not go his way, and he tries to lock in a submission and he doesn't get it, he's not able to close the distance, and you're starting to tag him up, Jack's body language really starts to change, and that's what you saw in this fight, man. I feel like you saw Carlos just pick him apart, start to break him a little bit, and then was able to get to him, obviously damaging the lead leg, taking away the movement, being able to plant, being able to drive. That's going to hinder him being able to explode in on a takedown. It's going to be, obviously take away the power in the lead hand and the backhand. That was a massive victory for Carlos Prates. And for JDM, I think he'll fight, some other guy in the rankings. He's still really, really good. Off the top of my head, I don't know a particular matchup. But for Carlos Prates, this is about him, man, because to head to Perth, to fly all the way over to Australia and put on that kind of performance is unbelievably incredible. Incredible. And I think he should fight for the belt next. It sounds like we're going to be getting Islam versus Ian Gary, which is a great fight. I've been saying Ian Gary should be fighting for the belt, next, as in now, because he's earned it, fighting anybody, anytime, any place, and he's the only guy to beat Carlos Prates. And I know he got in danger late in the fight, but he was controlling the fight. And Ian Gary has looked unbelievably impressive. So he's earned the title shot, and then I think Carlos Prates should fight the winner next. And, if Prates wants to stay active, if he doesn't want to kind of sit around and wait, then I could see them potentially doing Michael Morales versus Prates, which would be a banger. That's the fight that I actually wanted for Prates next after he beat, who did he beat last? Was it Leon Edwards? Right, he beat Jeff Neal, knocked him out, knocked out Leon Edwards, knocks out JDM, a guy that's historically very durable. And then now, him versus Michael Morales is fun. I think he would knock out Michael Morales. I know Michael is very dangerous. He's explosive, but he's way too wild and throws big, reckless shots to where I think Prates could time him with a left hand right down the middle and be able to snipe him and get him out of there. But I think Prates, he's been active. He's fighting everybody. He's been on all these big cards. now headlining a big-time fight night in Perth. I think he's earned the title shot, man. I think he should be fighting the winner of Islam and JDM for the belt next. Give Carlos his title shot, man. He's been absolutely outstanding. That was an absolute brutal beatdown by Carlos. Incredible performance by one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. It was dominant. And if you're a striking fan, big-time striking fan, that was a lot of art on display there from Carlos. JDM will be back, man. 2 tough losses. Again, an elite grappler, elite overall fighter in Islam, and then an elite striker in Carlos Prates. This was a tough out for him. Thought he would be a little bit more competitive, but after I saw the first round, the leg getting obliterated, JDM was landing some good little low kicks himself. But, I mean, if you're just going to be standing in front of Carlos, man, and you don't have the range to match him, or you're not lightning fast, it's just going to be a problem for just about everybody. So great performance by Carlos. He should be fighting for the belt after, the winner of Islam, Ian Gary, because I think that they're going to be fighting next, as Gary should be getting the next shot. Give Prates the winner. He's earned it. Beneil Dariush versus Quillan Salkilld. I mean, we all saw this coming. We all knew that this fight, in my opinion, was booked for a reason, which was not for Beneil Dariush to go all the way to Perth to get some win over a prospect that the UFC is trying to build up in Quillan Salkilld. And listen, I know a lot of us have been saying it, and I've been saying it as well, that Quillan is a legit prospect, man. This guy, and he's no longer a prospect, but you know what I mean. Like, coming into this fight, like, he's been a prospect that's on the rise. He's had quite a few fights in the UFC. We just see an evolution in his game, every single time out, right? We saw him in the Ashmouz fight. He grappled heavy in that fight. We saw him knock out Nasrat Hakpress with a brutal head kick, which was one of the craziest head kick KOs ever. Knocking out one of the all-time legends, Anshul Jubilee, with a piston shot down the middle, putting him away. I mean, Salkilld, he's got a big frame for the lightweight division. Right? He's got a good ground game. His jiu-jitsu's good. His wrestling is solid. And we saw some really good takedown defense from him in this fight, because early on, it looked like we were going to get a car wreck, because we've seen from Dariush, he's got some power. Right? But really with Beneil, I know he looks like he's 60, but I mean, he's wise and he's been around for a while. But we know with Dariush, his chin is gone. And in this fight, I guess the good thing is, because I really like Benny, man. And I hate seeing him get flatline KO'd, and I don't like seeing Dariush, lose, because he seems like a great guy, and I like Dariush a lot, and he's been in some incredible fights, and I think he's a very high-level fighter, but he's older, man, and the durability is gone. It's just gone, and this was one of those fights where the UFC's trying to get Salkilld a big win. And Dariush threw that kick to the body. It looked like it almost caught the elbow of Salkilld, and I thought it was going to bother Dariush's foot or something like that, and then he fired the left hand right behind it and kind of clipped Salkilld. I'm like, oh no, Benny's about to pull off the upset. And then Salkilld was able to shake off some of the cobwebs there, was able to get his wits about him, was able to defend a ton of takedowns from Dariush. And I was like, listen, I know Benny's a good grappler, but when you start to get a little bit older, we've seen in some of these fights, Dariush's gas tank has been a little bit questionable at times. Right? He's kind of had these lulls in the energy, these dips and kind of waves. And I figured if he was not able to get Quillan out of there with, some sort of submission or KO or whatever, I'm like, he's going to be really tired after the first round. And I know we've seen Salkilld slow down as the fights played out, particularly I think it was in the Ashmouz fight when that went the full 15. But, I mean, Quillan Salkild's really good, man. His striking is good. He's got the frame, eventually separated from the grappling, was able to just tee off on Dariush. They got into a slugfest. And we've seen with Benny, he will bite down, throw caution to the wind, kind of just dip his head and wing these punches and forget about the defense, go full ooga booga mode. If you do that against a younger fighter that's got some pretty good striking, you're probably going to get caught. And, Salkilld being younger, durability on his side, a guy that doesn't have a ton of miles on him. We've clearly seen Dariush. I know he's been in there against some of the best guys in the division, but he's been getting knocked out a ton. And this was a fight where it just felt like Quillan Salkilld was due for a KO. But a lot of people were kind of, I was saying that Salkilld should definitely knock out Dariush given the fact that his durability is completely gone, but this was in a way a big step up in competition for Salkilld, because outside of the durability issues for Dariush, he's still shown, like just a couple fights ago where I picked him to, beat Moicano, he put on a great grappling display, right? And he got knocked out by BSD early, which I get that, but for me, it just came down to durability. We saw excellent takedown defense from Quillan. We know his striking is clean, it's crispy. He's a problem, man, and I think that he's one of the best young fighters on the rise, especially in the lightweight division, but really overall in the UFC. And at this point, You know, I feel like it's time to have that conversation about Dariush probably hanging him up and heading into retirement, man. When the chin starts to go, and I know Salkilld's good, but when you start, you know, you're fighting the who's who in the weight class, and now you're getting knocked out by these up-and-comers. If you're Dariush, unless the UFC gives you another OG, old head type of matchup and kind of do you a favor, throw you a bone, if they don't do that and they're just trying to feed you to prospects, I feel like that should be the calling card, the time for Dariush to hang it up, man. Because I like Dariush. I think he's a great fighter. He's been in some great fights, but the durability, it's no longer there. This was a fight that Quillan Salkilld should definitely have won. Even though it's a step up in competition, this to me was all set up for Salkilld to do exactly what he did. Great performance by Quillan, getting the first round stoppage over Beneil Dariush. Tim Elliott, Steve Erceg. And by the way, on this card, I should have said how I did. I think I went 11-2, if I'm not mistaken. We did really well on this card in terms of picks. I picked Prates. I picked Quillan Salkilld and said Prates by round 3 KO. Quillan Salkilld, I think, by round 1 KO. And then in this fight, I said Erceg by decision. And I know a lot of people were out there, man, people are sleeping on Tim Elliott this week, man. He's a whatever underdog. And people literally just look at someone because they're a massive underdog, and then they try to basically justify why they're going to win. And then in the event that they do pull it off and win, they want to be like, see, everyone's an idiot, man. They don't know what they're looking at. No, you don't know what you're looking at. You were just trying to justify the pick because he was a massive underdog. Tim Elliott, this was not a good stylistic matchup for him whatsoever. Now, granted, he looked very good in the first round, as he always does, but a lot of that was Erceg was being very careful and trying to get the awkward timing of Tim Elliott, because Elliott's moving all over the place. Kind of reminds me of Dominic Cruz, actually, now that I think about it. I was thinking of that as I was watching the fight. I'm like, the footwork, it's kind of all over the place. Shots are coming from weird angles, threatening spinning elbows, spinning attacks. And that's where Elliott, even though he's got, the peppermint punches, doesn't have a ton of pop in his hands, and doesn't even really have thud either. I mean, this guy, it's just, that's been the problem with Tim Elliott. He's got a good ground game, but if he can't out-grapple you, he's just basically going to tit for tat his way to a decision, or he's going to have to find a way to out-grapple you. And he's not out-grappling Steve Erceg. And that's what I said coming into this fight. Stylistically, this was a hard fight for Tim Elliott. And of course, you can never count out, the junkyard dog of the division, right? The OG and Tim Elliott, a guy that's got a very high-level ground game, and he was able to take Erceg down a time or two, but Steve popped right back up to his feet, and people continue to forget that Steve Carell over here, man, not only does he have a beard and is kind of a new mythical fighter, but he is a grappler. That is Steve's bread and butter, is his ground game, and now his striking's gotten much better. I mean, his boxing looked incredible, and as the fight started to play out, round 1 was close. Elliott was kind of edging him out on volume, and I'm like, maybe Steve's going to be taking too many, pictures here. He's going to be sitting back waiting too much to where he's just going to get out-volumed and lose a decision. But Steve Erceg's boxing looked really good, and after the first round, he got his timing, stuffed some of the takedowns, was able to get back to his feet. I think he got his own takedown at one point, but it was the boxing of Erceg, man. He's got some sting on his shots. Elliott, really just a bunch of little bee stings, nothing really that significant outside of landing some sort of spinning attack or finding a submission. He was never going to win this fight, man. Steve Erceg, the better all-around fighter. His grappling, pound for pound, straight up, maybe Elliott's better, but in terms of MMA grappling, Erceg's a very good grappler. Has the takedown defense, has the range. His boxing looked the best it's ever looked in his career. And people forget, man, he took Pantoja to a really, really close decision. Right? He gave Pantoja, I think, one of his hardest fights of his career, and knocked out Matt Schnell with the boxing, and then people thought Steve was some KO artist, but his bread and butter is grappling, man. So this to me was just a bad stylistic matchup for Tim Elliott, and I didn't count out Tim in this fight. I thought that the odds should have been closer. I don't know what they closed at, or I don't really pay any attention to that stuff. I just pick who I think is actually going to win, and Steve Erceg was going to be able to stuff the takedowns, much cleaner, technical striker with a lot more thud and pop in his hands than Tim Elliott. So great win by Steve Erceg at home. Steve Carell getting the job done, showing up with the beard, looked very technical, looked very smooth. A much-needed victory for Steve. I think that's 2 in a row now, right? Just beat O'Day Osborne in a dicey one and put on a nice clinic against Tim Elliott as the fight started to play out. Tim Elliott, absolute savage, though. He's had some great wins, pulled off some great upsets, but Steve Erceg's legit, man. He's a great fighter. Marwan Rahiki versus Ali Schmid. We picked Marwan Rahiki to win this fight by KO. And listen, the bottom line about Marwan Rahiki, and I've been saying it, this guy has something special. He's an X-factor type of fighter, and he's got the it factor. And I think he's only 23 years of age, so hopefully the UFC will continue to give him a slow build. And I didn't love the Jack Jenkins booking. Now, I would have probably have picked Rahiki to win the fight, but I would have been very worried. Because Jack Jenkins is experienced, he's well-rounded, and I feel like the UFC really needs to slow build Rahiki, man. Don't Don't throw him in there with crafty vets right now. Give him guys that he can slowly kind of give him the Atiba Gauthier treatment. That's how I feel about Marwan Rahiki. And I know that Rahiki is really, really good, but he's very young. His defense is still suspect, even though we didn't see his defense, have any issues in this fight. There were no holes. We've seen it in his other fights. We saw it on the Contender Series. We saw him in trouble. We saw him in the Hardwick fight, right? He's very good. Offensively, he's very creative. Reminds me of a young Izzy Adesanya, right? He's got crazy power. Once this dude finds his range and starts to hit that flow state, you're in trouble. Because he's got the timing, he's got the speed, he's got the precision, and then he also has knockout power. This dude's really good, man. We've seen a little bit of his ground game here and there kind of coming into this to where it seems like it's pretty good. Scrambly little rascal if the fight hits the deck, but it's about his striking, man. It's about his striking. This was a great performance. I mean, I know, shout out to Ali for taking the fight on short notice, stepping in here. Rahiki's just that good, man. I think that this guy's going to be a superstar, and I think that his star power is starting to build. This guy's a must-see TV every single time. Must-see TV. I just hope the UFC gives them a rather slow build because I do still have a little bit of concerns when it comes to the defense, but when it comes to the striking offense, switching stances, the fluidity, the shot selection, leg kicks, kicks to the body, his hands, this dude's for real, man. He's legit. He's got all the skills in the world. I think he's eventually going to be a superstar in the UFC. One of my favorite up-and-coming fighters in the entire promotion. Love watching Rahiki fight, man. The dude's legit. He's for real and just a savage. Shamil Gaziev versus Brando Pericic. This was kind of like Josh Hokett versus Curtis Blades at home, if you will. I picked Brando Pericic by round 2 KO, and I'm happy that he got the win, but I'm also, how dare you knock out Shamil Gaziev, man. Listen, Shamil Gaziev, we mentioned this coming into the fight that he really is kind of figured out at this point. And Shamil did land some good shots, and I was like, wait a minute, is Brando's gas tank going to fail him before Shamil's? That would be humiliating, man, because the Blob doesn't have the gas tank. But the reality is Gaziev got a hold of him with a takedown. Or not a takedown, got him locked up against the fence. Was looking like he was going to grapple early, and I'm like, that's exactly what you need to do if you're Gaziev. Try to drag this out with Pericic, because we've seen in the past that he does slow down and have some cardio issues, even though Shamil has gas tank problems himself. That's the game plan to use. And as Shamil started to land some good shots, but then he starts to mouth breathe. His mouth gets wide open. He started to slow down. Pericic started to slow down. The ref was breaking him up, which was kind of nuts. The ref was not playing around. He's like, we are not having another heavyweight blob fest. And Shamil Gaziev gets knocked out once again. Brando Pericic, man, he's just a better overall striker. And that's the problem with Gaziev. He's too one-dimensional on the feet. His defense just isn't that good. And anytime he fights a technical striker, he runs into problems. And that's the reality. So Shamil landed some good fights. It was a good back and forth. It was getting competitive. Both guys were getting tired, and then they kind of had the heavyweight gentleman's agreement, that unwritten rule like in baseball. You know how if you hit the opposing batter, the other team's going to try to get you back for doing that to our guy? The heavyweights have that rule where, hey, man, if we have these couple bursts where we're slugging it out and we get tired, we're going to clinch up, hold each other along the octagon side, and then whenever the ref steps, it's basically like a built-in automatic timeout. So they had their little break. They separated. Pericic would throw these bursts. Shamil would throw these bursts. But at the end of the day, Pericic, the better, more technical overall striker, and was able to get Gaziev out of there. Big win for Pericic. He should now be in the top 15. Tough to see the Blob go down like that. I feel like we can all admit that the title run, I don't think it's going to happen for the Blob. So, yeah, it's unfortunate, man, because we all like the Blob. Tuivasa, Louis Sutherland. I mean, I first want to say that, look, Louis Sutherland, I'm happy for him that he gets a win because, we're going to rip on him in a second, but we got to give him the credit first because, loses 2, comes into the UFC, has some hype, was good on the microphone, gets called into the UFC, called up to the UFC, gets his big chance, right? I was supposed to fight somebody else, and I think he ended up fighting Walter Walker, which was the first fight was winnable. I thought he was supposed to fight somebody else, and that was very winnable. And then they switched it to Walter Walker, and I'm like, now that's a disaster. Then, so he loses that fight to the heel hook, the best heel hooker in MMA. Heel hooker. Pause, man. But you know what I'm saying? Like, Walter Walker's a problem, right? And then his last fight, I forget who he lost to. He got KO'd. And then now, Tuivasa. And he did what he had to do to get the win. And at the end of the day, Tuivasa completely washed, man. And a guy that, I picked Tuivasa to win this fight by KO, and that was a bad pick because I should have known better. Tuivasa is completely done, and he needs to be cut. He needs to be cut. I've seen enough, man. I've absolutely seen enough of what we've seen from Tai Tuivasa. Flopping around like a wet seal on the deck. The dude has no ground game, and he's made zero improvements in his game whatsoever. And he ate a crazy spinning elbow. I don't know how he ate that, man. Sutherland landed a big elbow. Not a great performance by Sutherland, though. Yeah, he dominated, so in that aspect, it was great, but it was boring. It was flat out boring. He landed almost no ground and pound. Wasn't really doing a whole lot with the takedowns, just kind of laying on Tuivasa. But again, Tai wasn't really doing anything to get up. And Tuivasa's, just lack of takedown defense is just pathetic, man. No understanding how to dig for the underhooks, get the wizard, turn them, just nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I can't remember Sutherland's last fight he lost, though. I know he got finished by Walker, got finished by somebody else. Can't remember off the top of my head. That's bugging me. So someone will comment it below, I'm sure. But yeah, either way, good win for Sutherland because, again, you got to get a win in the UFC, especially when you lose a couple in a row. To go out here and get a win over a name in Tuivasa, it's big. I was hoping for the Tuivasa KO, but he looked pathetic in this fight. So Sutherland absolutely dominated him, but it was a blubbery snooze fest in the heavyweight division. Cam Ralston, Robert Bricek. Cam Ralston, great performance. Smart approach, mixed in the takedowns. Robert's got some thunder in his hands. Ralston, that CKB style, feints, picking and moving from range. His defense, which was something that was very questionable coming into this fight. I thought he could find a finish here, but at the end of the day, I did pick Cam Ralston to get the job done. I just figured he was more technical, better overall striker in terms of the technique, has the kicks, has the range, and then also has a sneaky good ground game. We saw that in this fight. Was smart to break it out and control Robert on the deck, mix things up. Very, very smart approach from Cam Ralston to get a win. And I like the Vettori call out. They should book that one next. Junior Tafa, Kevin Christian. I was saying that Kevin Christian, I think, is one of the worst fighters on the UFC roster, if not the worst. This was a layup for Junior Tafa. And if Tafa lost this fight, definitely get rid of him. And Tafa should have KO'd him in the first round. That's what he did. And we picked Tafa by KO. And I know, faded Tafa, bro, but not in this fight. Kevin Christian, I think what did he win on the Contender Series? I don't even know how he's in the UFC. He's got some of the worst striking defense I've ever seen. He's got the tall man defense, no head movement, doesn't even hold his guard up, just no movement whatsoever. He was kind of circling around. His ground game is only good if you fall into his guard, and that kind of worried me because Tafa, it felt like while he stung him on the feet, he kind of was maybe playing into the game of Christian. Maybe Christian's kind of playing a little bit of possum to get him, into his guard to throw up some sort of submission because that was his only chance to win. Junior Tafa, even though he lost to Billy Alicana, he damn near knocked him out in that fight. And we've seen how good Alicana has been. And Tafa dropping from heavyweight down to 205, he's looked good, man. He's looked good. So that was a much-needed win for Tafa. Him versus Zhang Minyang. I think that's a good fight, man. I actually think that's a good fight. Two guys that can't grapple. Both have thunder in their hands. Both have suspect gas tanks. I like that fight. I think that would be a banger. So book that one next. This was a fight that Tafa absolutely should have won, and he did. Kevin Christian, not UFC caliber whatsoever. Jacob Malkoun, Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald Meerschaert almost won this fight. And Jacob Malkoun in no world should have been a massive favorite. This guy, Jacob Malkoun, continues to be underwhelming. He's a guy that's got some solid, little basic simpleton boxing, 1-2s, sprinkles in some things here and there. His wrestling solid. His ground game is solid overall, but he is just so underwhelming, man. Never puts his foot on the gas. Not going to a close decision with GM3 in 2026 is embarrassing. I'm sorry, it is. This was a layup for Malkoun to finally get a highlight, and he couldn't even do it. So, yeah, he got the win, but to me, this is almost a loss for Malkoun because it was a stock-crushing blow. He should have finished Torres. Finney didn't do it when Finney was, gassed out, no defense, wobbling around in there, and Malkoun couldn't get him out of there. And then here you are, GM3, the ghost of GM3, a shell of himself, who almost submitted Malkoun at the end of the fight. If you add another minute in there, I think GM3 gets him out of there. So, to me, I was more impressed maybe with GM3 than I was with Malkoun. Even though Malkoun won, I wasn't impressed whatsoever. GM3 to me had Malkoun in more danger at the end of that third round than Malkoun did GM3 the entire fight. So another underwhelming performance by Malkoun, but at the end of the day, he did get the W, but I thought it was very unimpressive. Colby Thickness, Vince Morales, and I picked Malkoun to win by KO. Should have just said by decision. Colby Thickness, Vince Morales, I picked Colby to win this fight. Just because I can't trust Vince Morales. I know that maybe he's the more experienced, he is the more experienced fighter. Maybe the more dangerous guy, submission game, solid on the feet, but he's too plotty, too stationary, stings Colby, just laps in fight IQ, in my opinion, which we saw a lot of early on the card, choosing to grapple. I just didn't understand it from Vince Morales, man, but people are surprised. They're surprised about this, and so many people locked themselves in the dungeon watching hours and hours of film to say that Vince Morales is a lock this week, man. He's the dog of the week, and whatever else people are saying. That shit pisses me off, man. Vince Morales is not that good of a fighter. And people are trying to make him out to be something that he isn't. And Colby Thickness isn't that good of a fighter either. And I know he trains with Volkanovski and this and that, but he's not going far in the UFC, man. I'm sorry. He just isn't. And I know the Alexandre Topuria loss, it hasn't aged so poorly considering, how Alexandre's looked. But at the end of the day, Thickness has no power. His striking isn't very good. It's sloppy. His footwork and movement is great. He does a lot of moving, but doesn't really land anything of significance. His ground game is solid, though, overall, and that's what ultimately won him the fight, and his submission game is legit, which was impressive. But overall on the feet, he's got no danger factor whatsoever. You put him in there with some experienced guys that actually can pop and actually have some fight IQ. I think that they'll beat Colby Thickness. I picked Colby by decision, but he kind of squeaked by with this one, and Morales made some mistakes, in my opinion, in this fight to where he possibly could have gotten the job done. But people are surprised that Morales made bad in-fight decisions. That's just something he has always done. So big win for Colby Thickness in a fight that he should have won, in my opinion. Ben Johnston, Wes Schultz. I mean, this was a fumble by Ben Johnston. The guy looked to me like he was going to win the fight. And Wes Schultz isn't good, and neither is Ben Johnston. And that's what I said coming into this fight is I picked Ben Johnston to win by decision, but I said low confidence because both of these guys are not good. They're not UFC caliber, in my opinion. And I know Ben has a striking background, a Muay Thai background. Where was it? Why are you trying to grapple with Wes Schultz? That's Wes's only path to victory, in my opinion, coming into this fight was that. And I know Schultz has a solid wrestling game. His submission game is good. And a guy that historically gassed, he was so tired. And Johnston played right into his game, dives in and just leaving your head on the hip like, what are you doing, man? You have the striking advantage slightly, is what it looked like. A guy that has all the striking experience. He didn't look very impressive to me. This was a horrible fight. Both guys, to me, are not UFC caliber whatsoever. Good for Wes Schultz to finally get a win in the UFC, but it was a dog shit fight, and both guys, to me, look like crap. And Ben Johnston, he should have won the fight. He completely fumbled, in my opinion. Jonathan Mikhailov, Themba Gorimbo. I picked Jonathan Mikhailov to win by submission, but he ended up getting a decision. This wasn't a split decision. I thought it was pretty clear. I think it was, rounds 1 and 3, if I remember correctly. It was early in the morning, man. But I had Mikhailov winning for sure 2 rounds. And whoever gave Gorimbo the nod, I don't know what they were looking at. So I know, Themba Gorimbo in there, he's got some solid wrestling. His striking is all right, but Jonathan Mikhailov, maybe a touch overrated. Maybe I overrated him a little bit, but I think he's a good fighter. The win over Oban Elliott is good. Beating Themba Gorimbo, these are some decent tests as he's starting to get on a roll in the UFC. But I don't know, man. I feel like this is a fight that he should have finished. But at the end of the day, he got the win. I thought it should have been a unanimous decision. Gorimbo did definitely not win the fight, in my opinion. Last but not least, Damar Fan versus Cody Steele. We picked Cody Steele to win this fight. I think I said by decision, and I thought that this was going to be a back-and-forth banger, and that it wasn't. It was basically a one-sided ass-whooping by Cody Steele. And in my breakdown, I mentioned if Cody Steele goes out here and he just basically brawls and gets into the phone booth and tries to have a fight of the night candidate, which is possible like he did against Rong Zhu, then Damar Fan will definitely have the shot to be able to pull off the upset. But Cody Steele was just a better overall fighter. His ground game is legit, man, and that's what you saw him by pulling off the sub, right? I think, what was it, a knee bar? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But, yeah, I mean, just either way, to submit Damar Fan, a guy that, has looked pretty impressive, getting the job done, road to the UFC, and his only 2 losses were to Quillan Salkilld by submission. Again, Quillan's very, very good, but Cody Steele's really good on the ground. And I know Damar Fan had the longer frame, but Steele's got power, training over at Syndicate. They were going to have a good game plan, get to the grappling, get to the takedowns. He's strong, physical, can push a pace, and you see that his ground game is very legit. He's just got to use it a little bit more and not fall so in love with the knockout. I love this performance from Cody Steele. I think that this guy's very dangerous in the weight class. So that's the recap for UFC Fight Night Perth. If you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also hype the video. I would greatly appreciate it. Carlos Prates, that was a dominant, devastating performance. Beat the brakes off of JDM. He should be fighting the winner of Islam versus Ian Gary next. But if he wants to stay active, they want to do Morales versus Prates. That's an absolute banger of a fight. I just think Prates at this point has clearly earned a title shot.